Today on the Commanders Report, we're going to be breaking down every single player the Washington Commanders have brought in on a top 30 visit, or at least a confirmed top 30 visit today on the show. And I can't wait to break down some of the top prospects that the Washington Commanders are targeting in this year's NFL Draft. But before we get into that, we have some big news here on the Commanders Report. As here at Chat Sports, we have a limited studio space. Not every team gets to go live for the first round of the NFL Draft, but we have grown so much here at the Commanders Report, and we've been doing so well over the last couple of months that the big bosses here at Chat Sports are allowing us to go live for when the Washington Commanders make their first round selection there, of course, at number 2 overall. So this is really a big, exciting thing for the channel here. Can't wait to react live with you guys because the Commanders are going to be taking their next franchise quarterback at number 2. It's going to be a very exciting and very historic night for the Washington Commanders football franchise. So I can't wait to share with you guys. Mark your calendars. We're going to be going live for that. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications so you know whenever we go live with breaking news coverage right here on the channel. So now let's get into kind of the top story when it comes to our top 30 visit tracker, which is that the Commanders are bringing in the 4 quarterbacks that they could potentially take in the first round. Okay, Caleb Williams is off the board. No meeting there. He's only taken a meeting with the Chicago Bears. He's going to go to Chicago, right? But out of the 4 quarterbacks that the Commanders have shown interest in during this process are all slated to be in Washington this week at the same time for their visits, all right? So that really creates an interesting dynamic here. So the quarterbacks that are visiting, Jayden Daniels out of LSU, Drake Maye out of North Carolina, J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, and then Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, all right? So this is something that new GM Adam Peters is kind of taking from San Francisco with John Lynch, who likes to bring in multiple players at the same position group and bring them in for a visit at the same time. So this is definitely an interesting strategy here, and I think that they want to see how they interact with the other QBs. Are they trying to one-up each other? All these different things. They want to get a sense for their personality, and then they want to kind of see out of this grouping of 4, which guy is their guy heading into next Thursday. Now, also keep in mind here, out of those 4 quarterbacks, the only guy that they have had a private workout, or at least that we know of that they've had a private workout with, is Michigan's J.J. McCarthy, all right? So does that mean they're going to take McCarthy at number 2? Not necessarily, all right? There's been a lot of buzz surrounding guys like Colin Cowherd and Jordan Schultz and Adam Schefter and Matt Miller and all these different guys coming out with reports that the Commanders are leaning Jayden Daniels. But I'll just say this right now, guys, I'll probably lose it if they end up taking J.J. McCarthy at number 2 overall over a guy like Jayden Daniels. It's not that I necessarily hate J.J. McCarthy. All right, I just think that he has a little bit of a limited ceiling, whereas you got guys like Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels who could be perennial MVP caliber guys in the league. Here's my scouting report on McCarthy. And listen, it's not all bad with McCarthy. I'm not saying that he's a terrible prospect or anything like that. He has good athleticism. He's a really good runner outside of the pocket, and he's also a pretty darn good passer from outside of structure as well. He can escape the pocket on the run. He's very accurate as a passer on the run, which is one of his strengths. Super tough within the pocket, good footwork, decent mental processor within his first read. All that's fine. Then, of course, the intangibles are off the charts, which is definitely one of the reasons why he's flying up draft boards during this process. However, some of the cons with his game that I see on film is that he does have accuracy inconsistencies when throwing 20-plus yards down the field, so he's not going to be somebody that's going to be burning you deep, and he also has some inaccuracy issues when it comes to throwing outside the numbers and some of those longer throws that develop towards the sideline. Some vision stuff, like he had some open post routes to like Roman Wilson, for example. It's right in his read, and he goes to a check down instead. That's the kind of conservative decision-making that scares me a little bit, especially in the top 5 of the draft. And he takes some really bad sacks as well, makes some really bad decisions outside of the pocket at times, and it's just not overall consistent enough for me to be willing to take him in the top 5 of the NFL draft. And I still do think it's going to be Jayden Daniels at number 2. That's what all the reporting is kind of indicating at this point. Now, obviously, Daniels needs to kind of knock this visit out of the park because there's going to be 3 other top quarterback prospects all trying to land this number 2 spot, in the building with him at the same time. So he's going to have to bring his A game. But at the end of the day, I think Daniels is going to secure it, and I think he's going to be the next franchise quarterback of your Washington Commanders. Now, let me know down there in the comments section, who is your guy? Is it Jayden Daniels? Type JD. If you want Drake Maye, type DM. Do you think J.J. McCarthy could be the guy at 2? Type JJ. Or type MP for Michael Penix Jr. for today's pinned comment. In just a second, we're going to be talking about today's sponsor, PrizePicks. When I talk about them, make sure you go down there in the comment section, find that pinned comment right at the top of the comment section. Let me know which QB you want the Commanders to take. With that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. PrizePicks has specials for new and returning users alike for the start of the MLB season. And listen, folks, football season has been over for a little while now, but the action on the diamond is just heating up. Get in on the excitement with our friends at PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your baseball knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you know ball. The 2024 MLB season is now off and running, and you can pick more or less right now to make some money from the comfort of your couch while you watch your favorite team play. Guys, PrizePicks is super simple. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Here is my projection for today's MLB action. I'm going to take the more on pitcher strikeouts for Jordan Hicks. I'm going to take the more on hits plus runs batted in for Marcell Ozuna. And then I'll take the less on pitcher strikeouts for Jose Quintana. All right, so that is my PrizePicks projection for the day. And you can get started right now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the PrizePicks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. You can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy with our friends at PrizePicks. Okay, now let's get into some of the other positions here in terms of top 30 visits. Here are the 5 offensive tackles that they have talked to during this process here. Jordan Morgan, somebody that's expected to potentially be there late round 1, early round 2 out of Arizona, a guy I'm a big fan of. Kiran, I'm gonna completely butcher this, but Amegadjie, I hope I've got that right. He's out of Yale, kind of an interesting player there. Rosengarten from Washington, somebody that is flying up draft boards right now. Isaiah Adams from Illinois, and then Caden Wallace from Penn State. Now, the guy that I think from this grouping that you need to be keeping your eye on is Jordan Morgan at pick number 36 specifically. This team needs a left tackle, and I've speculated whether or not the Commanders would consider trading back up into round 1 to take a left tackle like an Alu Fashano or a Troy Fontenot, somebody like that. But if Jordan Morgan is starting to hang around here and, he's there at 36, I think he's going to be the pick for the Washington Commanders because this team needs a left tackle and they need one right now. Then we get to the edge rushers here, another list of 5 where they have Chop Robinson at number 40 on the PFF big board as their number 1 guy right there. Marshawn Nealon out of Western Michigan. Jalix Hunt, so that is somebody from Houston, a Christian, and it's 86th overall. He's been flying up draft boards, former safety, definitely one to keep your eye on. Austin Booker out of Kansas is a guy that's kind of got a lot of moves at his disposal, but I would say needs to learn when to deploy those moves. Doesn't really read offensive tackles very well, but man, he's got a good profile, could be developed at the next level. And then Javonte Jean-Baptiste from Notre Dame, expected to be a day 3 edge rusher, also visited the Commanders this offseason. And listen, I would love Chop Robinson if he fell to number 40. Not a very good run defender at this point in his journey, but he's got the physical tools to be a really impact player for this team. And we know that Dan Quinn took a kind of a raw linebacker-type prospect in Micah Parsons there in Dallas and turned him into a superstar. Could he do the same with a guy like Chop Robinson, who has incredible get-off, great speed, bend off the edge? I mean, just slower tackles can't keep up with this guy, but he needs to develop his finesse, he needs to develop his ability to diagnose the run, and he needs to be a better tackler in space. If he does all those things, he has a chance to be something real special in the National Football League. Then we get to the cornerbacks here, and only 3 on the Commanders list that we know of to this point. Cam Hart from Notre Dame, Elijah Jones from Boston College, kind of a sleeper in many people's eyes right now, and then Rod Gaddison, who's not even listed on the Pro Football Focus big board right now. So when I look at this list here, and it's possible that they visited with more corners that we just don't know about at this point, but just based on this list, it seems like the Commanders might go corner on day 3 instead of day 1 or day 2 of the NFL draft. It seems like they feel pretty good about Emmanuel Forbes, Michael Davis, Benjamin St-Juste, Jartavius Martin, all the guys that they have currently in-house. It seems like they feel pretty good about those guys. Now, you can debate whether or not they should feel good about that grouping, but at this point, definitely seems like the Commanders are going to be going corner probably later in the draft than probably some Commanders fans would like them to. Then we get to the tight ends here, and there's 2 of them here that they've met with. Ja'Tavion Sanders out of Texas, who we've mocked to the Commanders a number of times throughout this process. Could be, I think, probably late day 2, maybe early day 3 type of guy. No, I mean early round 3, I should say. Late round 2, early round 3 kind of guy. Really love his ability to tout the rock and catch the football. Really reliable hands. And then Jared Wiley out of TCU, another pretty decent tight end prospect. Currently ranked 108th by TCU, by Pro Football Focus, I should say. So listen, man, this is kind of the opposite here, right? Corner's probably going to go day 3. I would say it's looking like the Commanders want to take a tight end for the future by the end of round 3. So that's the end of day 2. And I think that they would love to get a Ja'Tavion Sanders at the top of round 3 at pick number 67, or potentially get a guy like Wiley towards the end of round 3 if they can't get a guy like Sanders. Then we move to inside linebacker here, where they've met with Trevin Wallace from Kentucky, and then also Tyrus Knight out of UTEP, who's not even listed on the Pro Football Focus big board. So I'd say Knight is probably more of a undrafted free agent type of guy that they might be looking at, but Trevin Wallace is definitely somebody that they could draft in the middle rounds this year. All right, so that's going to be it for our tracker today, folks. I really do appreciate everybody that stopped by today. Make sure you answer that pin question down there if you haven't already. Let me know which quarterback you think the Commanders are going to be taking next week at number 2 overall. And then make sure you click that subscribe button right now, because we're just getting started with all the great draft content that we're going to be having on this channel for the next 2 weeks, breaking down everything that you need to know leading up to the big day in Detroit. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now. And until next time, hail to the Commanders.